linear changes in single bars due to temperature change. Okay. First case we are taking bars free to expand or free bar expanding here. So we are dealt with that free bar expansion already. Again we are looking into that. If a bar is expanding freely due to temperature change, its internal resistive force is equal to 0. So since R is equal to 0, this implies stress is equal to 0 here. But due to temperature change, it will be undergoing elongation. Final length is equal to original length into 1 plus alpha into delta t. So strain is nothing but final length minus original length by original length. This can be given as alpha into delta t from this equation only. So you see that stress is always 0, strain is always non-zero as far as temperature change is there. So here we see Hooke's law is not valid. Understand? Clear? It's the first case here. Kindly copy this. We'll go ahead with the next one. Bars with rigid supports. Okay, look here. Now it's reverse of the previous case. The member is not free to expand. We are restricting it to expand between the two supports. So here it cannot elongate along the length direction because two rigid supports are there. Okay, so though it is restricted to elongate, we are still heating it. Let's see what happens to the material. When you are keeping a member between two rigid supports like this and doing a temperature change, increasing temperature, let's take. What happens is two things are occurring at the same time. The member is trying to expand along the length here. This is a thermal case, and at the same time that value of elongation is being cancelled out by the rigid supports because the supports are like this. So two things are occurring at the same time. Free expansion, so it's a completely thermal case, and we are giving rise to compression by the supports, which is giving rise to stress. So which is a mechanical case because loads are produced by these applied or existing supports. Okay, so I'm not applying a principle of superposition here. Here I'm telling that two things are occurring at the same time, which we see, you see the net effect of both the two processes, free expansion and cancellation of free expansion. That's why you see net elongation should be 0 here. So if you take here epsilon overall, which is in the x direction, is equal to 0, which is nothing but epsilon x thermal plus epsilon x mechanical. So this strain x direction is a addition of these two values or strain produced in these two cases. So substituting here 0 is equal to thermal strain is alpha delta t, which we have derived already. Mechanical strain is nothing but sigma by E because Hooke's law can be valid. And here there is stress only in x direction. And I know stress is going to be compressive, but I'm simply putting it as sigma only to get the answer along with sign. So sigma comes out to be minus alpha delta t into Young's modulus with a negative sign. Sigma comes out to be minus alpha delta t into Young's modulus with a negative sign. So here we see that if delta t is greater than 0, this implies stress is compressive. If delta t is less than 0, this implies stress is tensile. That's very much clear from the equation itself. So if you substitute the values of alpha delta t Young's modulus along with sign, especially delta t, because alpha and E are always positive, so you will get the answer of stress along with sign. In many of the questions they will ask you the value of stress along with sign. You should be very clear about that. Clear everybody? Till here it's clear? No doubts? So listen carefully. Let me compare the remaining concept and then we'll go into numericals. At the time you can copy this. We see gaps between railway tracks wherever railway lines are kept. You can see the picture as well. There is a gap between one track and another track. Both are attached with some joint there. So we intentionally leave gap between the railway tracks because due to temperature change, when the summer or temperature increases than the normal temperature, what happens is the railway lines, those lines will elongate. So we should give some gap so that they can freely elongate. So let's assume this is the end of the one rail, this is the end of the other rail, both are given with some gap here. So free expansion should go and disappear. So we should allow them to undergo free expansion. they should not push over each other with huge amount of force. Normal reaction force should not come. Understood? So we should be going ahead with the giving some amount of gap so that free expansion will be allowed, so that stress will be always equal to 0. If stress is non-zero, what happens is already some existing stress will be there inside the material, and over that if the train comes, it will apply more amount of stress and there is a chance that railway lines can undergo breakage. Understood? So we need to give every optimum amount of gap between the railway lines or railway tracks. If you don't give optimum amount of gap, you will be having such type of phenomena as it is shown on the secondary screen. So the rails are pushing over each other and they have become curvy. We don't expect that to happen. Understand? And in fact, this Eiffel Tower is in 7 wonders of the world, and it is built based upon the basic principle which we studied just now. Okay? Every member, every part of every rod of the whole structure is kept in such a way, the whole structure is designed in such a way that every member can undergo as much amount of free expansion as possible due to temperatures change in summer and winter. That's the reason why the tower is still in intact position for the past hundreds of years. Understood? Clear? So that much important is our concept of free expansion and this restrictive expansion. Okay, so let's go into numericals. Completely copy this and then give me answer with this question. I don't think you have to copy this question. You can give the answer fast. Amit, what's the answer for this question? The answer is nothing but C. Very good. So here they're asking a free bar of length 1 is uniformly heated from 0 degrees centigrade to T degrees centigrade. Alpha is coefficient of linear expansion and E is the modulus of elasticity. The stress in the bar is. So we have to get stress in the bar. It's a free expansion, so stress is always equal to 0. Okay, so very easy question here. So once you're done copying, give me answer for the next question. If you see this question, it's given that an elastic bar of length L, uniform cross-section area A, coefficient of thermal expansion alpha, Young's modulus E, is fixed at both the ends or two ends. The temperature of the bar is increased by T, resulting in an axial stress of sigma, keeping all other parameters unchanged. If the length of the bar is doubled, the axial stress would be. So here length is doubled here, we should get the value of stress. So for bar fixed between two supports, stress is given as alpha delta T into Young's modulus. It is depending upon alpha, which is independent variable, delta T independent variable, Young's modulus is independent variable here. Okay, so if you double the value of length also, stress will remain same. So the answer is A, not C. The answer is A here. It will not change. We cannot convert into, that means here if length L is there, definitely we can say length got doubled means stress will get doubled. Length is independent variable. Understood? So here all these variables are not all depending upon length. So sigma also will not be depending upon length at all. So the correct answer for this question is actually A. Okay? What they're saying is, they're doing comparison. First of all, they checked the value of stress taking length is equal to 1 meter. Okay? So later they have did the same thing. That means they given rise to same temperature change. They given rise to, that means they took the same material rod having Young's modulus as E only. Obviously Young's modulus will be same. They taken same area. Everything is same. But the only difference was the second loading condition. They took the rod which is having double the value of length. So previous case length was 1 meter. So the next case they took rod of length 2 meters. Okay, like this the experiment is done. The question is asked in that way. So obviously the formula is minus alpha delta T Young's modulus. If you substitute the values, alpha is 12 into 10 power of minus 6, delta T change in temperature is 22 to 120, so it is 100. Young's modulus is equal to given as 200 gigapascal. 200 into 10 power of 9. So if you simplify this, you get it as minus 240 to 10 power of 6 Pascal, which is nothing but minus 240 megapascal, which is nothing but 240 megapascal compression. The answer is D here. Okay, fine. Let's go ahead with the next one. Kindly put the title. Linear changes in composite bars due to temperature change. After this, we go into volumetric changes. Last section of this chapter. Done? Everybody copy the title? So listen carefully. So this derivation you should understand carefully. Okay, so we didn't got any question. Only one question came in the past 31 years. We'll see that question and we'll take one question from textbook. So as if just for the practice, I would like to give the question as a homework. Okay, but listen carefully here. Okay, please pay attention. We are taking the composite bar and we are concerned about linear changes due to temperature change. So composite bar I'm taking. So this is the solid shaft inserted inside the hollow shaft, and here I am solving this example or deriving the formula for stress and everything for the case where rigid support is applied. I said already that the composite bar is produced by using two methods. One is interference field, another one is using a rigid support as an end mass. Okay, so I'm going with the second case here. Okay, but the concept is same. The concept is going to be same. Here I'm taking number 1, or I'm giving number 1 for this solid shaft, number 2 for this hollow shaft, and I'm going with the case where alpha 1 is greater than alpha 2 and temperature is increasing. Once we derive for this case, we can automatically solve for other cases as well, like alpha 1 less than alpha 2, delta T less than 0, alpha 1 greater than alpha 2, delta T less than 0, and so on. That means greater than we are checking here. We can take other cases like less than, greater than, less than, greater than. We can take all the other cases. Understood? So here we are taking this assembly and heating it. So obviously metals will elongate. Let's assume the free expansion is supposed to happen till here. I'm taking the free expansion till here for the first rod, and for the second rod free expansion should happen till here. So we can say this is the value of alpha 1 L delta T and this is alpha 2 L delta T. I'm going with the case both the rods are having same length. So this is how it should happen if the rigid end support mass is not there. End mass is not there. This is the way in which the elongation should happen. Okay, but due to the application of rigid supports, they will be forced to come to an intermediate value which is between this lesser value and higher value, alpha 1 L delta T and alpha 2 L delta T. Okay, so what you're doing here, by the usage of this rigid supports, we are compressing this solid shaft and elongating hollow shaft. So if you are doing in this way, reaction forces on the rigid support will be in opposite sense. Any doubt regarding this step? Kindly see the diagram and let me know. I'll give you time to copy a little later. I just want you people to observe. Let's take this elongation as delta here. So to produce this delta, solid shaft must be compressed by this rigid support and hollow shaft should be elongated by the rigid support. That's why given directions P1 and P2 in that way. And obviously once I take P1, P2 in this way, on the other member, we should be putting in opposite sense. So here, after bringing it to this position, elongation as delta, this rigid support is in equilibrium. So we can apply the condition that P1 minus P2 is equal to 0, P1 magnitude is equal to P2. That means the force with which it is compressing the solid shaft is equal to the force with which it is elongating the hollow shaft. That's the meaning of that. So P1, P2 magnitudes are coming out to be same. That means the force with which it is compressing the solid shaft is same as the force with which it is elongating the hollow shaft. Okay. Now, this is the value of delta here. We should evaluate the values of P1, P2 because they are giving rise to stresses. Free expansion is not giving rise to any stress. P1, P2 will be giving rise to stresses here, and we understood that P1, P2 are same. Let's give the value as P. So let's find out the value of P here. If you write down delta value for the first one, is nothing but free expansion, that is alpha 1 L delta T minus compression due to P1. So P1 L by A1 E1. That means net expansion is equal to thermal expansion plus mechanical compression. Okay, same way for the second rod it is nothing but alpha 2 L delta T plus P2 L by A2 E2 because it is expansion. So from these two we can write down, because we can remove both P1 and P2 because both are equal to P only. P1 is equal to P2 is equal to P only. So that gives us P as nothing but alpha 1 minus alpha 2 whole into delta T whole by 1 by A1 E1 plus 1 by A2 into E2. So please remember that this value of force is only magnitude. This value of force P is only magnitude. This value of force is only equal to magnitude. So by using this formula, it comes from this expression only, we can get the value of magnitude of force P. So based upon the value of force dividing by area, you get the value of corresponding stresses. So it is not that much difficult to get the magnitude of stresses. But the challenge is about to find out the value of the sign. Which stress will be tensile, which one will be compressive, or which member will experience tension, which member will experience compression. If you see this diagram, we can simply say that the first bar will experience compression and second bar will be experiencing tension here. So here, every time finding out the value of stress, for example, we have seen the case alpha 1 minus alpha 2 is alpha 1 is greater than alpha 2 and delta T is greater than 0. Second case, alpha 1 less than alpha 2, delta T less than 0. Third case, I am going with this alpha 1 greater than alpha 2 and delta T less than 0. Fourth case is alpha 1 less than alpha 2 and delta T is greater than 0. Okay? So greater than, less than, greater than, less than, greater than. Okay? So it is very easy to tell for this one because we draw the diagram. Again, for this case, if you have to get the value of stress means, again you will draw the diagram. Drawing the diagram, getting the answer is a very good step. It's the right step in fact, but sometimes it can cause your time to get wasted. It can cause time wastage. Okay, so that's why I'm giving you a shortcut here. Please remember carefully. If your P value is coming out to be positive, that means you can put like this, shortcut. Shortcut to decide the sign of stress. If alpha 1 minus alpha 2 into delta T is greater than 0, because remaining everything will be obviously positive only. So alpha minus alpha 2 delta T is greater than 0. This implies this case here. Sigma 1, that means the case which you have seen here. Sigma 1 less than 0 and sigma 2 greater than 0. If alpha 1 minus alpha 2 into delta T less than 0 implies sigma 1 greater than 0 and sigma 2 less than 0, opposite. You can draw the diagram and you can check also. Understood? What I am saying is basically another way, if P is coming out to be positive, that means compression tension. If P comes out to be negative means opposite. So here if you see alpha 1 minus alpha 2 is positive, delta T is positive. So it comes under this case. Sigma 1 less than 0. So for this case, sigma 1 less than 0, sigma 2 greater than 0. Now if you take this one, alpha 1 minus alpha 2 less than 0, delta T also less than 0. So this also comes under this case only. Okay, here if you see alpha 1 greater than alpha 2, positive, delta T less than 0, product is negative. So you will get this case. Alpha 1 less than alpha 2, delta T greater than 0, again negative, you will get this case. Like this you can get the value of strain, get the value of sign of the stress correctly. Clear? Understand everybody? Okay? You take this question. So here in this question, in the data given in the question, they haven't clearly told it is a composite bar. But kindly remember that this question is based upon the intention that it's a completely composite bar only. Okay. So if you give answer for this question, that itself is sufficient. Next question you can take it as a homework because all you have to do is derive the value of P. I mean, calculate the value of P by substituting the values. After that, dividing by area to get the values of stresses. Clear? So kindly get the answer for this question after copying everything from the board. Okay, let us see this here. It's given that a cantilever composite beam of tubular section consisting of two metals, copper as outer cylinder and steel as inner cylinder. So here, inner cylinder is steel and outer is copper. And they're given alpha copper greater than alpha steel. That means alpha 2 greater than alpha 1. That means alpha 1 minus alpha 2 is less than 0. And here temperature rise is there. So alpha 1 minus alpha 2 into delta T is less than 0. That means it comes under this case here. Sigma 1 greater than 0, sigma 2 less than 0 here. Sigma 1 means in the steel cylinder it will be tension and compression in outer cylinder. That is copper cylinder here. Okay. So tension in steel, compression copper. Very good. Okay. Clear? You can take this question. Remaining data is there in the next slide. I want you people to just give the signs of stresses as a practice because it's a main crucial part of the question. Remaining things you can do it later because it's completely a formula itself, just for practice. If you read the question, it's given that the gunmetal rod screwed at ends passes through a steel tube. The tube has 30 mm external diameter, 25 mm internal diameter. The diameter of the rod is 22 mm. The assembly is heated to 423 Kelvin and the nuts on the rod are then screwed tightly on the ends of the tube. Find the intensity of the stress in the rod, in the tube when the common temperature has fallen to 293 Kelvin. So here they are bringing down temperature from 423 Kelvin to 293 Kelvin. So we observe that delta T is less than 0. And here gunmetal rod and steel tube is there. If you see the coefficient of thermal expansions, so gunmetal rod is having higher. So alpha 1 is greater than alpha 2. Steel tube is having lesser coefficient of thermal expansion as compared to gunmetal rod. So alpha 1 greater than alpha 2 and delta T less than 0. Alpha 1 minus alpha 2 is alpha 1 minus alpha 2 into delta T is coming out to be less than 0. So sigma 1 greater than 0, sigma 2 less than 0. So there should be tension in gunmetal rod and compression in steel tube. Okay. So tension in gunmetal rod and compression in steel tube. So same thing is given here. You can copy the magnitude values so that you can check for your calculation mistakes. This is the case. This implies sigma 1 greater than 0, sigma 2 less than 0. So rod and this is tube. Rod will be experiencing tension, that is 53.27 megapascal, you will get it, and you will be getting in the tube as compressive stress. Clear? Okay. For this question, what is the value of delta T you're going to use? Obviously delta T is less than 0, but what is the magnitude of delta T? May I know the number? I'm asking you, what is the magnitude of delta T? So delta T, simply you write like this, 293 minus 423. How much is coming up here? 0, 3, 1. Okay. Fine. Delta T value, delta T is nothing but change of temperature, right? So whether you take difference of Kelvin or difference of centigrade, you'll get the same answer. You cannot this value into centigrade and you take the difference. Still you'll get the same answer. That's what I wanted to convey here. So don't get confused in terms of temperature difference here. So we're talking about temperature difference. So whatever may be the units in which alpha is given or whatever it is given, so temperature change, simply you can take the difference, whether it is in Kelvin or centigrade, you'll get the same answer. You want to check, you can check here also. So initial temperature is 423 Kelvin. This can be written as 423 minus 273 Kelvin. So this becomes, or degree centigrade. So this becomes how much here? So 12 minus 7 is 5. So 3 minus 2 is equal to 1. So 150 degree centigrade. So final temperature is given as 293 Kelvin. So 293 minus 273 degree centigrade comes out to be 20 degree centigrade. So delta T in centigrade also will come out to be minus 130. So change in temperature is minus, that is change in temperature is 130 units here. Minus 130 units here. So you'll get the same answer. So you should not get confused at all. Clear? Okay? Any doubts?